If you've been scrolling through endless tower speaker lists, watching video after video trying to decide whether the extra-large drivers are really worth the floor space, you're probably feeling a little stuck. Maybe you've read the specs, seen a few flashy photos, and still wonder if the sound will actually fill your living room without sounding thin or overly bright. That hesitation is real, and if you pick the wrong pair you could end up with a set that looks great on the shelf but just doesn't move the room the way you hoped. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I'm going to do in this review is walk through exactly how the Sounds REV 12 HDX SBFC bundle performs in the everyday scenarios most of us care about: movie nights, gaming sessions, and casual music listening, and point out the hidden trade-offs that rarely get mentioned in the marketing copy. By the end you should have a clear sense of whether these 12-inch tower speakers are the right fit for your space, or if you'd be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the biggest thing that sets this bundle apart is the way Sounds has packaged the speakers with 3 accessories that most other brands leave as optional add-ons. The TC3 fixed clamps are made from stainless steel, which means once you bolt the speakers to a sturdy stand or a custom shelf, they stay put even if you have an enthusiastic movie night couch cushion shuffle. The XS Grille is a sleek, low-profile metal mesh that not only gives the towers a cleaner, more modern look but also keeps dust and pet hair from settling on the drivers. Finally, the Sounds REV 12 HD neoprene cover slides over the whole tower, offering a quick way to protect the finish when you're moving the speakers for cleaning or rearranging furniture. Now, how does that translate to real-world use? I set these towers up in a medium-sized living room with a 75-inch 4K TV, a modest AV receiver, and a couple of wooden bookshelves that double as speaker stands. The first thing I noticed was the stability the clamps gave the speakers. Even when my dog decided to hop onto the bookshelf, there was no wobble or shift in positioning, which meant the imaging stayed consistent throughout a 2-hour marathon of sci-fi. For anyone who worries about speakers tipping over or moving out of alignment, that hardware alone is a solid value add. Sound-wise, the 12-inch horn-loaded compression driver does a surprisingly good job of delivering crisp, articulate mids. When I played a dialogue-heavy drama like The King's Speech, the voices stayed clear without any metallic edge, even at lower volume levels. The larger 12-inch woofer handled the low end of a movie soundtrack, think rumbling explosions or deep synth pads, far better than a typical bookshelf speaker. You won't get the sub-bass punch of a dedicated subwoofer, but for most home theater setups the speakers fill the room nicely without making the floor vibrate. In a gaming test with Red Dead Redemption 2, the environmental sounds, wind, distant horse hooves, rustling leaves, felt immersive, and the directional cues were sharp enough that I could pinpoint where a gunshot came from without turning my head. One practical strength that many reviews gloss over is how easy it is to swap the grille and protective cover on and off. If you have kids who love to paint or you frequently host friends for game nights, you can slide the neoprene cover over the towers in under a minute, protecting the finish without sacrificing sound. The grille can be removed when you want a more aggressive look or when you need to clean the drivers. The clips are firm but not stubborn. That kind of flexibility is useful for anyone who treats their listening area as a shared space rather than a static setup. On the flip side, there are a couple of weaknesses you need to weigh. The towers are fairly tall, just under 6 feet, and have a wide base, so they demand a decent amount of floor or shelf real estate. If you live in a small apartment or have limited wall space, you might find the footprint intrusive, especially if you already have a TV stand or other furniture occupying the same wall. Also, because these speakers are passive, you'll need an external amplifier or an AV receiver that can drive them adequately. I used a 100 watt per channel receiver and the speakers performed well, but a weaker amp left the bass feeling a bit thin. That's not a flaw in the speakers themselves, it's just a reminder that the bundle isn't a plug-and-play solution. You have to consider the rest of your audio chain. Another subtle trade-off is the aesthetic compromise between the grille and the speaker's natural finish. The metal mesh looks great from a distance, but up close the grille can slightly muffle the high-frequency sparkle you'd get from an uncovered driver. In my own listening tests, the difference was only noticeable when I moved the listening position directly in front of the speaker, and it wasn't enough to detract from the overall enjoyment. Still, if you're a purist who wants every nuance of a high-resolution recording, you might prefer an uncovered design. So,